Welcome to the Oso Archery Podcast. Whether it's your first buck, first bugle, or 100th bugle, we're here to learn, grow, and hunt together. This isn't just archery. This is Oso Archery. Earned, never given.
All right, welcome everybody. This is the Oso Archery Podcast, and this is our September is Calling series.
Yeah, and today we got Michael Batease on from the Elk Calling Academy, and we appreciate you joining us.
Hey guys,
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, appreciate the invite. Excited to be here. So September is going to be here. God, before we know it, it's July already.
It is close.
It's coming up quick for sure. Hey, so we're going to start this podcast off with, we want to hear your worst pack out you've ever had.
Worst pack out. Oh,
There's probably many of them.
yeah. It's kind of funny. We used to have this place that we called the hellhole because the only way that we knew to get into it was you kind of went to the mouth of one draw and you had to work up the face, get up to the ridge line, go up the ridge line a little bit, and then skirt past some rocks to drop down into it. And the reason we named it the hellhole was because the very first time we went in there, we dropped a 333 6x6, and it took 2.5 days to pack that dude out. Thankfully, weather was good. There was a creek that, we were able to keep the meat really, really cool. But it's kind of funny because 2 years after that, we were messing around and we found that we could actually come in from the face of that own draw, but that the name hellhole stuck, and so we still called it hellhole. But yeah, 2.5 days to get a bull out with two of us.
Jeez.
Little bit of vertical, a little bit of rock, a little bit of brush, a little bit of creek crossing. I mean, about everything that you would want in a really good pack out. But it was one of those things, no matter how bad the pack out is, we always joke, you get that last load to its final destination and you drop that pack off your shoulders. And about 10 minutes after that, you look at each other and go, it really wasn't that bad. I'd go back in there again.
I'd do it again.
Yeah.
All right, so why don't you give us a little background on who you are and how you started Elk Calling Academy?
Yeah, so my name is Michael Batease. I grew up in Eastern Oregon, Hermiston, Oregon, went to college in LeGrand. That's actually where my elk hunting career kind of started, in the Blue Mountains there. I moved to Boise, Idaho in 94, and that's where about 96 is where the passion for elk hunting really got instilled in me. I got linked up with a group of guys that we went 7 miles back in on an ATV trail. It was just incredible. It was one of those places where you could lay in your tent at night and probably hear 15 different bulls screaming just in all different directions. And that's what you heard all night long. It was incredible. You could really be a piss poor caller and a piss poor elk hunter and still have a lot of success. So
that sounds magical.
Oh, it was just, there was times, I remember the early days back in this drainage, that the Forest Service, there was a guy, this guy was a mountain goat. I mean, good Lord, he was in his 60s, but that guy could hike anybody under the table. I mean, the mileage that Francis would put on, and anybody listening to this that knows the name Francis and recognizes it, they know exactly who I'm talking about. But that guy would do his loop. He would come into our camp. Hey, who's in the valley? It's like, oh, there's 2 people up at such and such basin. There's 2 people down at the Gilded Rock. He goes, okay, cool. See you guys in a couple of days and pack out. So he would actually stop in our camp and find out who was in the valley, because
Who was where.
Yeah, we kind of knew it well enough. But so, and then God, let's see, it was probably 2001, 2000 or 2001, I kind of started working with Primos, on their pro staff. Was with them for 1 year and then jumped ship to Rocky Jacobson. And at that time, it was bugling bull game calls. Now it's Rocky Mountain hunting calls. Back when Rocky owned it, I was Rocky's right hand man for about 10 years. And then when I resigned from Rocky, that's when elk calling academy kind of came to fruition. And it actually just came with somebody reaching out and saying, hey, I would really like to learn elk calling and I'd like to take lessons. And I kind of chuckled at first and I was like, lessons. And I was like, well, wait a minute. People pay for guitar lessons, drum lessons, dance lessons. They pretty much pay for all different lessons.
They pay for everything.
Yeah. So why not? And the guy kept telling me, he's like, I'll pay you for your time. I'll pay you for your time. And I was like, no, I've taught all kinds of people at sports shows. And then finally the light bulb went off and was like, hey, this could maybe be a business, doing one-on-one and teaching. Cause I remember the struggles. I thought diaphragm reeds were the dumbest thing in the world the first time I tried. So I remember the struggles, and so that's kind of how Elk Calling Academy started, and then it morphed from doing the one-on-one lessons into the Wapiti Wednesday live Q&As, which I used to do every Wednesday on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram.
I was a part of those all the time.
Were you? Yeah,
I was. I loved those Q&As.
Matt wants you to get back after it.
I would love it.
I still do Wapiti Wednesday live Q&As. There's just a little difference. So it's every other Wednesday. And so Elk Calling Academy has an online course now. And it's like $149 for lifetime access. And there's close to 100 videos. And it's just teaching, a lot of the stuff that I teach in the one-on-one lessons, but also to opening up my playbook and saying, this is exactly what I do. And as the elk evolve and the hunting landscape evolves, I'm updating those videos. But then also too, you can add on the Wapiti Wednesday live Q&A for $19.99 a month, and it's every other Wednesday. And I mean, man, we do weekly rut reports during the rut where I go live and talk about, this is the activity, this is what's working, this is what's coming up next week. We do a lot of e-scouting stuff, and it's a great place to just sit around and get questions answered.
Yeah, I always like going on those. Those were fun to check out. You get a lot of good info on those too.
Thank you. Yeah, I've had a lot of people that have said, hey, have you thought about it? And I said, yeah, I have. And I've toyed with the idea about, maybe once a month or twice a month, just jumping back on the Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube and doing one. Cause I miss the camaraderie. I mean, during the peak, I mean, there was thousands upon thousands of people that were tuning into that thing. And it was,
I know, I'd jump on there and I'd throw a question out there. And I'm like, I wonder if he's going to be able to get to it or not.
That was the hardest thing was that chat box. And because on the computer, I actually had to where I could grab the chat for Facebook and YouTube, but Instagram was on the phone. And so you would have, two different chats going, and you're trying to scroll and, okay, did I
trying to get to all of them?
Ask a question. And, but it was a lot of fun. It was organized chaos.
Yeah, I bet. Good stuff right there. So you're still doing Elk Calling Academy?
Yes. Yep. Still doing the Elk Calling Academy, have the online course, still doing, one-on-one lessons. It's kind of funny. I've got two guys right now that jumped in on the master class, which the master class is an 8-lesson. I mean, just really customized to what they really want to learn, what their skill set is, really what their goals are. And it's kind of cool because both of them started it early enough in the year that going to get through all 8 lessons and still have a month and a half, 2 months of really practicing, getting ready for the season. Also to getting the ability to get out, kind of put into practice a little bit that we've kind of talked about with scouting and e-scouting. And so, but yeah, still going. I know the social media, there's not a ton of posting on social media. It's kind of more different circles that catch people nowadays.
That learning curve though really narrows up whenever people take these kind of classes too.
What's that?
That learning curve, it really helps quite a bit when they take these kind of classes.
It really does, because I mean, if you think about it, the way that we learned, the only opportunity we had was during September. And so depending on your work schedule, I mean, you may only have 7 to 10 days during the year to get out there. Now during those 7 to 10 days, how many interactions do you really have? How many good call-ins? How many, call-ins under 40 yards do you have? And the ability to take what you've learned from that or the mistakes that you made from that encounter and be able to go to the next. I mean, that's one of the things when I started out was I kept a journal. I mean, I got back to camp each day and I wrote down the date, what the temperature was, what the elk activity was, what the moon phase was, what I did, how they responded. So, you do that for a 5-year period and you spend the winters going back and reading those, man, all that information just stays fresh. Well, nowadays, holy crap. I mean, you've got so many resources to tap into to really shorten that learning curve to where, you can find consistent success within your first year, second year. I mean, just constant. It's crazy how everything has changed.
There's a lot of info on YouTube for sure.
There really is. There is a ton of info out there on YouTube. And here's one thing that I tell a lot of the students and a lot of people that I talk to. There's so many great resources, but the thing that I always tell them is, okay, great. Really happy that you signed up for Elk Calling Academy. Appreciate it. But don't rule out Elk 101. Don't rule out row hunting resources, because you have all these other different resources. The more information that you learn, just the more knowledgeable you're going to become. And even though a lot of us teach kind of the same core stuff, it's presented in a different way that you may learn something easier from somebody else. But then the other thing too is you could take a little bit from my playbook. You can take a little bit from Corey's playbook. You can take a little bit from Chris's playbook, and you can morph those things into your own style. Then you're not out there copycatting or emulating just a single person. You're developing your own style and you're growing with that as your elk hunting career grows. And man, that's the thing that is a ton of fun because
that's what we were trying to do with these podcasts is have a bunch of different guys with their different styles so people can kind of build their own.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. It's a great way to go. So, because like I said, just find little tweaks, here and there. And each one's a little bit different. I mean, Chris Rowe really focuses on cow vocalizations. Corey is an aggressive style, born and raised, those guys are aggressive style. My style is kind of more taking the bull's temperature and kind of adjusting what you're doing based on the responses that you're getting and the mindset of that bull and the type of bull that you're working. And so every scenario, and I used to be, early on in my career, I was all about how many miles can I get in a day? And man, I'm going to be so stinking aggressive that I'm either going to piss that bull off or I'm going to push him off the mountain. And it was funny because I was sitting in camp one day, middle of the day. It was kind of a bath day and camp day. And this old timer comes riding up on the 4-wheeler and we just started shooting the breeze. And he said something to me that stuck with me that day. He basically said, "How can you write a book for a story that hasn't happened?" And I'm like, and we kind of dove into it and he goes, each encounter with an elk is different.
Yep.
The bulls you encounter throughout the day are different mindsets. The bull you encounter on Tuesday, his mindset can be completely different on Wednesday and then completely different on Thursday. So you can't really go in with this cookie cutter. This is exactly how things are going to happen. You have to be able to morph and adjust and adapt.
Yep. You never know what those bulls are going to be doing.
No, they have a mind of their own. I've tried really hard to get them to do exactly what I've wanted to do, and it has never worked out.
Never worked. Oh, that would be a dream. Just come here, bull. Just comes right on in.
I know, right by the truck, right by the road, not have to do these horrible pack outs that we talked about to start the podcast here. And no, that would be boring. We gotta have the ups and downs, the tears,
the struggle.
Yes.
Well, let's hear some of your early calling techniques and strategies. So like that early September time frame.
Okay, so early in my career, so like I said, I used to think diaphragms were the dumbest thing in the world, and so I was exclusively external calls. Handheld. The old Fight Carlton Fight and Cow was one of my favorites. Yes, the blue snap-on reed, the Terminator was the bugle that I used, and I know
No.
a lot of people knock the blue snap-on reed and the Terminator, but that tube has called in a ton of elk.
Dad loves that.
If a person knows really how to use, let's say, the Abe and Sons or the Terminator or even the power bugle, if somebody really knows how to do those and run them, they can emulate and sound like an elk perfectly. It's just incredible how real those sounds actually do get. So
Every time I hear one of those, they're always a Doug Flutie.
but that's somebody that doesn't really know how to use it that well.
Right.
Because if you know how to start with wool, get that wool that bulls get at the start, you can actually get that wool on that blue snap-on reed and get that and then go up into the notes. The reason most people sound fluty on it is because us as guys, we really tend to just really get a lot of
All of our power.
forward and all the power. That's not what the blue snap-on reed's about. That's not what the Sun. It's actually less is more with those guys. You go at it nice and relaxed, and man, you can make those things sing. In fact, I remember 2 years ago we were on the mountainside, and we bumped into a person that I knew. We were both heading to the same area that we're hunting. And my hunting partner kept elbowing me, and then we split up, and I'm like, "What's your deal?" And he goes, "Did you see the tube that he had?" And I said, "It's a custom made that has the blue snap-on reed." And he goes, "I can't believe that guy would go up on hill on here." He goes, "Man," he goes, this is going to be funny today." I actually ended up sitting down on a ridge and just because I could hear him across the draw and just listening to him. And my hunting partner was like, "Holy crap." And I said, "Exactly." I said,
That guy knew what he was doing.
Oh, it's somebody that took the time to learn how to play that mouthpiece properly. And he had a diaphragm reed in his mouth, but he would only cow call with a diaphragm reed. All of his bugles were on that blue snap-on reed. So, but yeah, so early calling, was all externals, and then I could finally do cow sounds on a diaphragm reed. I finally, in fact, it was the Primos diaphragm reeds were the first reeds that I could actually, make some sounds on.
So what made you make the jump?
I don't know. I just so many people talked about the freedom and the versatility of a diaphragm reed, and
Yeah.
I tried conventional reeds to start with, and then once I went to the pallet plate, then I just wanted that hands free.
Yeah.
I wanted the versatility. I wanted the ability to do that. Then I started. It was one of those things where it was like, okay, I kind of put my foot down and got stubborn and said, okay, I'm gonna figure this crap out. I'm just gonna sit here and do this over and over and over and over and over again until I can figure it out. So, thankfully, I was single. I had no family at the time, so I wasn't driving anybody crazy. So
I know how that goes.
I'm very fortunate. My wife, even though she hunts, she loves elk hunting. She started bow hunting. She's been a rifle hunter her whole life. Last year was her first year archery hunting. She now understands. My Septembers of me being the shooter are pretty much done now, just because of her.
Now she's the shooter.
Her second day out, she had a 320 perfectly symmetrical 6x6 at 8 yards.
Ooh. That's almost too good.
She's hooked. She understands.
I think anybody would at that point.
Well, crazy thing was
dinosaur in front of you.
needed one more step for a clear shot. So she didn't even get the shot. But that bull on his way in bugled, raked, glunked, chuckled. I mean, about every sound. And then to have him step out at 8 yards and him having to turn his head down to get underneath branches to come up, and man, she let down, and all that emotion, just the tremors. I mean, the body tremors just started.
Oh yeah.
And she's like, okay, that is the coolest thing I have ever experienced. And she points at this mountaintop all the way across the valley. She goes, I don't care if you say we're hiking to that because there's a bull butte. I'm ready. I want more of that. Let's go.
We're going to go.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So finally learned how to bugle. And then one of the early things that I learned once I really started on a diaphragm reed, I used to chew Copenhagen back in those days. And yes, it was in the front lip. I learned very on that if you have a fresh Copenhagen in the bottom lip, do not try to lip ball. It does not do very well at all. And you will just hear that Copenhagen ting, 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 ting all the way down your tube. And then when you get down to the bottom in the creek, you rip you rip the cover off of the tube and dunk that tube down in the creek to push the inside of it.
That sounds
like
terrible.
Copenhagen the rest of the day.
I knew it too as soon as it started, and I heard that first couple of tank, and I'm like, well, I'm committed.
That's the way to do it right there.
Yes.
No, I don't think so.
It made it a lot easier once I switched to pouches over the years. So
So do you do a lot of raking?
I will, it's that's one of the things that I was talking about kind of evolving as things evolve, as the popularity of elk hunting has really grown. It's one of the things that I kind of talk about a lot on the Wapiti Wednesday live Q&As with the ECA members. It's okay, when you guys are out there, think about your surrounding, pay attention. So are you guys calling and acting like elk right now, or are you calling and acting like humans? And so that's one thing that we've really noticed with the increase in hunting pressure, when the increase of predator pressure, especially, you guys in Washington and Oregon are starting to experience what, we've been experiencing for years in Idaho with the wolves. It's really lately we focus on low audible sounds a lot more than we do the actual bugles and vocalizations. And by low audible sounds, it's your huffs, your grunts, your glunking, your raking. I'll tell you what, raking and soft chuckles is a deadly combo, especially early season. Those elk are used to people running ridge lines and letting off 2-3 cow calls, letting off a bugle, letting off another bugle, travel 200 yards, 3-4 cow calls, couple of bugles, another 200-300 yards. So it's kind of thinking outside the box, but also too, it's, being aware of our surroundings. There's some days we're out there where it's absolutely quiet. I mean, no birds are chirping, squirrels aren't chattering. It's quiet. Nothing's going on, but you will hear people that will be doing full-blown peak rut calling renditions. And it's like, there is nothing else around you that is doing that. So, be aware of what's going on around you and adjust. So yeah, raking is a very, very big proponent in what we do.
Yeah, I think if you're out
the whole season.
I'm sorry, Kenny, go ahead.
No, will you rake throughout the whole season, or is that more of just an early season thing?
No, we will actually rake throughout the season. So, just because there's different elements. I mean, early on in the season, you're raking with just your, soft chuckles or maybe just some huffs and grunts. Those are great because, elk are used to each other's voices. I mean, they spend bachelor groups, they grow up, they're used to hearing the vocals of the bulls that are around them. The cool thing is when you're doing, especially early in the season, and you're doing some blind calling routines, if you're not doing any actual bugles, you're doing some cow vocalizations and you're doing some rakings and huffs, man, those other bulls, who is that? Which bull is that over there with this cow? And is that somebody that I know I can beat and take that cow for myself? Now, as the season progresses and we get closer to peak rut and things kind of get going, the breeding sequence is one of my favorite calling sequences because it emulates a bull with a hot cow. And raking is one of those things that you can emulate into the breeding sequence as either frustration or excitement or domineering. It's how you incorporate and how aggressive. So no, raking's a great tool that can be done all year long.
That's
What is
good to
that
know.
breeding sequence like?
So the breeding sequence is basically you are a bull with a hot cow. So I mean, if you've been into a canyon and there's just a rut fest going on, you've got multiple bulls bugling, you can hear cows and calves and all this excitement going on. Usually that is saying that if I hear that, that tells me immediately that there's a hot cow. There's a hot cow and that's affecting everybody around. And that's basically what you're emulating on that breeding sequence. But it's one of those things where you have to start small. You can't just jump right into a sequence, full tilt, max effort, max volume, everything. You got to start just like you're building a fire and you start with small pieces of wood and kindling and slowly grow that fire. Well, you do the same thing when you're doing this breeding sequence and you're basically telling a story. And the story that you're telling is that, here's a hot cow that didn't have a bull with her. So she's advertising, hey, I'm right here. Is there any bulls around? Then you introduce, after a little bit, then you introduce a bull into the sequence and you do it via raking and some grunts and maybe a little bit of whine because it's non-threatening. It doesn't tip the hound on any other bull. But now all of a sudden, now you start playing that interaction with that hot cow, and this bull is like, oh yeah, okay, he's checked. Yep, she's hot. He's interested, and the other elk around recognize this because you're doing sounds within it that are only done during September. There are sounds that are only synonymous with the rut, and they recognize these sounds. They don't have to see what's going on to know. They can know by the sounds that they're hearing. And so you're ramping this up, and then that's going to get other bulls around bugling.
Get them fired up.
They will. And the mistake that a lot of people make is they ditch the story. They're like, oh, we've got a response. We're going to focus on that bull out there. That bull's 400 yards out there. And you're telling me that an actual bull is going to ignore a hot cow to bugle at a bull that's 400 yards away? No. Yeah. He's going to stay on that cow until that bull that was 400 yards is now 125 yards. Now he broke that comfort bubble. And now instead of a tending bull, which that's what we've been up to this bull, is a tending bull is a bull tending to a hot cow. But now as soon as that other bull breaks that bubble, now he turns into a defensive bull because now he's going to move in between his hot cow and that other bull. And he's still going to pay attention to his cow, but he's also going to tell that other bull that, dude, you need to kind of stay away because I'm a dominant bull. I've got a hot cow. And that's going to tell you immediately based on what you're getting back from that other bull. If he's getting more aggressive, you raise the aggression level and you just keep matching, keep going. And that's where ultimately you end up into these scream fets that, man, that dude finally uncorks this bugle that you feel to your soul and you know that he's coming and he's coming like a locomotive. He doesn't care if there's a tree or bush in his way. He ain't going around that thing. He's going flat out through it. And those are the guys that when they get to your shooting lane, you're on your cow call, you're on your reed. Yeah, trying to get him to stop because he's just.
And they ain't stopping.
No, he's got a mission in mind.
So is that more of a strategy for satellites, or will that pull in the herd bull, or will it pull on any of them?
The satellite will pull in, or the breeding sequence will pull in any bull because every bull that has cows, they're all going to do the same thing.
Yep.
If you're within that ear proximity, they can hear you. They're going to scent check their cows really quick. Nope, I ain't got any hot cows. But that dude over there does. And
We should go check it out.
There's probably a chance that I can stash my cows over here and sneak over there real quick and kick that dude's butt, and then I get to breed that hot cow. So, but the caveat to that is so many people. So remember earlier when we talked about that rut fest that you're hearing? So many people will choose that time to try to call the herd bull away. That's not the time you want to pull a herd bull. You're not going to pull a herd bull off of a hot cow because he already has 5 or 6 other satellite bulls screaming at him. How are you any different than those 5 or 6 satellite bulls?
Yeah.
And in fact, a lot of times, if I get into a drainage and I hear that, there's a lot of times I will back out and come back in the next day if I'm targeting that herd bull. If I'm just targeting one of the satellite bulls, I will get close and start doing my own breeding sequence because it's really easy to pull one of those satellites off of his and come to you. But if I'm targeting that herd bull, I'm going to back out, come back in the next day. Crap, he still has another hot cow. Back out, come back the next day. I'm going to wait until the day that I go in there and it's quiet. And here's another rookie mistake that a lot of people make because they will sit there and they will go and I'm sure we've all heard this. They go into that draw, they go into that drainage, and there's the rut fest going on. They get back to camp and they tell everybody that they ran into, oh man, somebody flipped the switch. The rut is on. Have you guys ever heard that? Oh, somebody flipped the switch. The rut is on. Man, they are finally going. And they can hardly sleep that night. And they go back in on the next morning and it's crickets. And they're like, what the heck happened?
What happened?
They already start going. God dang it, somebody else must have heard it and came over the top and blew them out, or a predator moved in. 99% they're still there. They're just quiet.
Yeah, the breeding's done.
Yep. Yeah, he's waiting for the next one to come in.
They're just taking their little water break, and then they'll get back after it.
Yeah, take a deep breath and get some water and relax a little bit and wait for the next one to come back or come into cycle and start the whole show again.
So let me ask Michael, let's say it's September 12th.
Okay.
And you haven't heard any bulls and you're in an area you've never been in before. How do you run your day? What's it look like?
So that's a tough time of year right there because you're kind of in that transition time where the bulls have pretty much already gathered up their herds. They already have their cows. And now they're just kind of waiting for the rut to begin. You know, they're waiting for the first cow to come into estrus. So in those times, I mean, you can catch bugles early in the morning, but it's a lot of times around that time frame, you got some pretty quiet mornings. You can get some older cows that can come into estrus, but my approach during those times is I want to find fresh sign. I want to find areas where the elk are. I want to be able to smell them. I want to find the fresh poop. I want to find the fresh tracks, know that they're in the area. And then that's where I'm going to be a little bit more patient, and I'm going to set up and I'm going to start doing some blind calling routines. And I'm going to be in that spot doing blind calling routines for an hour before I move to the next spot.
Okay. And how far in between are you moving? Are you only moving a couple 100 yards? Or are you going 200, 300 yards, a quarter mile?
It depends on the topography. I mean, if I'm in really dense timber and I'm doing it and I move a couple 100 yards and the timber starts opening them up, I may do it again because, the denser the timber, the sound doesn't travel as far. So you can't go as far before you set up and do it again because your sound's just not traveling. Now, if you're more open, then you can go a little bit farther. But also, too, am I working up a trail and there's a knife ridge that I'm on the backside of the ridge. Now, when I go up the trail and now I'm coming to the other side of the ridge, probably going to set up because I know that my sound hasn't carried that far.
Everywhere your sound hasn't reached to, you're going to maybe set up again and do it again.
Exactly. The other thing, too, is if you're in a new area, I will turn on tracks a lot of times for this because it's my distance and time out hunting it's so funny. The distance side, the reason I turn on tracks is because so that I can actually look down on my phone and see how far I've gone. because there's so many times, especially in a new area, you'll start hiking and go, okay, I know I've had to have gone 200, 300, 400 yards, and you look down and it's like, I've gone 110.
You're like, what happened?
we need to walk a little bit farther before we set up and call again. Same thing with time. When I say doing these blind calling sequences, I'll have a watch or look at the time on the phone. Cause I'll do sounds. I'll wait 2-3 minutes and I'll do sounds. I will physically look at the clock and watch 2-3 minutes go by before I go, because time's the same thing as distance. Oh, man, I know it's been 3 minutes of time for me to go. It's been 48 seconds. It's like, dang it.
Do you get impatient out there and want to set up and do it all over again real quick?
I don't. I used to. And in fact, early on in my career, my nickname was One More Ridge, because all my hunting partners, I was always, let's just go one more ridge. Let's go up to here and see what's on the backside. I know there's a bull bugling on the backside. As soon as we get to the top, we'll hear him. Then we get to the top and it's like,
How about one more?
He could be down by a creek in the bottom. Let's just, and then, we do the one more ridge. But as I've kind of gotten older, I've slowed down and the patience has really come in. And the thing that I've noticed is, now that I've slowed down, I actually see a lot more and I have a lot more interactions. I don't bump as many elk as I used to, during the early days of just trying to cover ground.
Do you look for the worst places to go, or are you just cover more country?
I've kind of started hunting smarter. Early on in my career, it was give me the deepest, darkest, nastiest place that was farthest from roads that nobody would in their right mind would want to go. And that's what's kind of funny, because you're talking early 90s, mid 90s, and we were 7-8 miles back in, and backcountry hunting really wasn't that popular back then. In fact, back then it was the average person was only willing to go like a mile down a closed road or a trail or something like that. Crap, nowadays it's with all the popularity of backcountry, man, if you're not 10 to 12 back in, you're kind of a pansy, and you're not, can you really even call yourself a backcountry hunter? And so I've kind of found this new thing that I kind of call the no-go zone. So you still have the people that are only willing to go a mile. Then you have these true diehard backcountry guys that are 8 to 12 back. You end up getting this window from about 2.5 to 5 miles that the first group is not even getting to, because they're only willing to go a mile. And the second group is just blowing right through, because it's all about how deep did we go. And so you end up getting these pockets that
makes for a good pack out story.
It does. But the other thing too is we've started thinking outside the box. Some of our most productive areas with some of the best bulls is within 200 yards of a major road.
Yeah, we got lots of roads in our units over here. Roads everywhere.
We have been actually sitting there working a bull and have heard a truck or a side-by-side or something come around the corner, and we all shut up. And they have literally stopped right below us and gotten out and started telling a story about how when they were kids, they could basically whistle where they were standing, and bulls would scream, and then they would throw out a bugle and go, yeah, nowadays there's just not any elk. And my hunting partner and I are looking at each other, we're like,
there's elk right here.
So, but yeah, I mean, we've broken them down and hung them in trees and come back in the middle of the night to pack, to put the meat in the truck and haul it off, just didn't want. But there are gems that are closer than people think. You just got to think outside the box.
Just very overlooked spots.
Exactly. The other thing too is avoid the obvious areas, because you're going to have so many people that have listened to so many podcasts and have listened to, watch so many videos and all this kind of stuff. they're all going to be looking for the same type of things. They're all going to be focusing on the same areas. We take it a step further. We find those areas, and then we all of a sudden start going, okay, where's the back door at? Where are these elk going to go once the pressure hits them? And those are the areas that we focus on. We don't focus on the obvious, because that's where the majorities are hidden, and we don't want to go compete with people. We're kind of stingy. We kind of like the forest to ourselves. We don't want to compete with a bunch of other people.
Oh yeah. That's how OTC is.
OTC is great, but you know what? I'll tell you what, there's some amazing opportunities on OTC hunts that I think a lot of people just really don't give them credit for.
Yeah, we've called in a bunch of hunters.
That's the fun part of it. I mean, it's every year, and I love the interactions. I've had it where there was one guy one time that got so mad. Of course, I pulled him from the top of the ridge down.
Yep.
Of course, when he finally made the last little approach, he came walking in with an arrow completely knocked, and I was sitting on a
Like, we're hunters.
No, I was sitting on a log eating a sandwich and just kind of looked up and waved. So that probably.
And he knew right then.
Yeah, he kind of threw his pack on the ground, threw his bow on the ground. He's the one and only person that has never come up and talked to me.
Really?
Called them in. Yeah. So I'm sure the fact that we were sitting, like I said, sitting there eating a sandwich kind of adds insult to that. But yeah, public land is good for that. It's interesting.
Yeah, everybody we've always called in has always talked to us. It's always fun. Then we always talk, oh, you see anything over there? You see? And then we go our different ways.
Oh, I love talking to people on the mountainside, because that's the other thing. That's the other thing about today's hunting society that I have found. It's like everybody wants a validation. So, and it's like, oh, are you guys hearing anything? Oh man, we were up 621 road yesterday, and there was 4 bulls that were just absolutely going ballistic. About 3/4 of the way up by the old rock slide, and they will puke so much information. And then they'll look.
How much of that is true? Are they giving you a fish story?
But then they'll look at us and go, how are you guys doing? And it's like, holy crap, we haven't heard a bull or seen an elk in 5 days. And they're kind of chuckling. They're like, dude, we've been into elk every day. It's like, great. And then we get in the truck, and it's like, all right, drop a pin on road 621 about 3/4 of the way up at the rock slide. Let's go check it out. And more times than not, yeah, it's legit, because they want to have that validation of, look at how great I am. Look at how good of a hunter I am. So tip there, guys. If you ever run into me on the mountainside or on the road, don't believe a thing I'm saying.
Oh, we'll just start following you around.
There you go. There you go.
So is there any different strategies?
All right. So
go, Matt.
No, you're fine. You're fine. My phone is cutting out. I must have just terrible service where I'm at.
We can hear you. I can't see you though.
Is my screen still glitching out on you?
Yeah, you're freezing up again.
Yep.
It's okay.
Your audio's good.
As long as you can
the
hear
audio's
me,
good.
that's all that matters, right?
Yep.
No, I was just gonna say, ask you what kind of stuff you look for for your setups.
So, basically I want those areas. So when choosing a setup, you want to eliminate as many variables as possible. So, and meaning you want to use the topography and the vegetation to funnel, create doorways, and aid your setup by using those features. And so I will find little rolls. I will find doorways in, buckbrush corridors, all kinds of different things that are going to funnel that bull past my shooter. The other thing too is always have a contingency plan. So even though I'm going to sit there, it's kind of like what we talked about earlier, where I was like, I try to get these bulls to do what I want. They're animals. And that's why every setup that I do, I'm always looking for that backup, that alternate, going, okay, what's the other possibility that he may come in, and pay attention to his responses and how he's coming in, because then me as the caller, I'm going to adjust one way or another to make sure that he's coming through, those slots. But we've also talked about contingency plans. But no, I look for the other thing too is I always set my shooter up first because I want to know where my shooter is. So me as the caller, I can move around.
Yep.
And once I set my shooter, I look back to the direction that I'm going to be calling from, and I look for the farthest bush, tree, whatever I can see, because I know I want to be about 20 to 25 yards past that, because those elk can see a heck of a lot better than we can. And I want to make sure that his hang up spot in order to see me is past my shooter.
Now, how do you handle, if you're just by yourself, how do you handle your setups?
And that basically is stick and move. Take the old boxing, stick and move, but it's call and move. And it's, you make a sound, you make a call, and then you're immediately moving. You are half mooning towards that bull, but also on the downwind side. So it's always these half moon moves. And it's always, the plan's always evolving and always changing, because again, it's you get it stuck in your head that he's going to come a certain way and do a certain thing, but also to be ready for the unexpected. So I don't know how many times, especially early in the season, I always make so many mistakes early in the season that I shake my head and it's like, man, you've been doing this since 1989. You should have known, but those mistakes are what actually snap us back into it and get us in. But it's the other thing too is when I'm solo, I focus more on the interaction with the bull. And I think that's why I've gotten so close to elk when solo hunting, because I'm not really so focused on the strategy and moving, that I'm just more in the moment and kind of enjoying the action and going with the flow. Now, mind you, yes, that has gotten me caught unprepared, but it's been some really cool encounters. And it's kind of funny that you asked that, because we went up camping this weekend and swapped cards out on a couple of trail cameras that we have. And we were talking about that it always, it always seems like there's several years in our past where I've gone out on a solo hunt. Maybe I've gotten to camp before the guys have gotten there, and I've ran out for an evening hunt, and I've gotten so close to getting a bull. I mean, and it could be that he caught me before I was able to draw, or, he came and there was a bush blocking the vitals, so, I mean, there was one that, I mean, he came at 4.5 yards, but there was just,
you could have touched him.
Yeah, but there was just too many branches on this bush to be able to shoot through. So I couldn't put the arrow through. Now, both of those bulls, Bryce killed one and Brandon killed the other, 2-3 days later. So we have a couple of bulls on camera, and that's how this conversation came up, because they were like, hey, we need you to go in and do a solo hunt on this bull. And I'm like, well, always seem to learn his pattern and how he comes in. And then you set one of us up to cash in on what you learned on the solo hunt. And I said, that's really cool, guys. But my wife is now an archery hunter, so she'll take advantage of the solo.
She'll take the shot this year.
But yeah, there was one bull that I've got hanging downstairs that, God, I think that guy called in 5 times before everything finally really came together to execute a shot. Twice were solo hunts with me. Once was with Kevin. Once was with Eric, and then the last time it was Bryce that actually got to take the advantage of everything all lining up.
Yeah. Did it blow out the spot each time, or was he in a different spot? He was just in the same area.
He was always in the same area. And in fact, 3 of the 5 times he came in on the exact same pattern, exact same route.
So even if you blow out a bull, there's still chances to get him.
There are. So it's because elk have a 2 to 3 day reset. So, if something happens, you blow them out or bump it, or they have a human interaction, within 2 to 3 days, they're going to forget about that interaction and
Okay.
it's going to reset. So it's just like prime example, the hoochie mama. The hoochie mama was an extremely, oh my God, that call was successful when it first came out. I mean, so many elk responded to it. But the problem is the hoochie mama is on the same pitch, the same frequency. So elk were coming in and having human interaction with this very single, same pitch, same frequency over and over and over and over again. Well, they started to associate that frequency with human interaction, so they started avoiding it. If you are doing a setup where you are doing cows and calves and bulls and you're doing all different vocalizations at different pitches, in other words, you're calling like an elk, you're communicating like an elk, and they have a human interaction, there's too many sounds for them to associate with human interaction. So,
Okay.
and I know what I'm kind of guessing where you're kind of getting at this is the term that we all hear nowadays, the elk are call shy. They're call shy. They're educated, all this stuff. We've all heard this, right?
Yep.
When I hear somebody say the elk are call shy, the vision that I have in my head is bulls running, an elk running every different direction from every elk sound that they hear because they're shy of that sound. Elk
Yep.
are a herd animal. They're very social, vocal, social herd animal. If they can't communicate verbally, then they can't reproduce. That's how they attract their mate.
Yep.
That's how they communicate with everybody that all is fair and all is okay. So they're not call shy. They're not educated. Most of the time when I talk to people and they say, oh, elk are call shy, if you bugle in my area, they just run the other way. Most of the times when I dive deeper, it's because it's somebody that got up late in the morning. They heard a bull bugling up in the canyon. They started heading up in the canyon bugling. That bull continued to move away bugling. And they're like, oh, he's just running from us. No, he's not. That bull is heading to his bedding ground. The fact that
Yep.
he's bugling to you, he's saying, this is where I am. I'm heading this direction. Come on with us. Here's another story about this. So one year on an evening hunt, was calling for one of my hunting partners. We had 2 bulls come in. He shoots right at dark. We hear the hit. We weren't sure how good of a hit it was, and so we backed out. We came back in the next morning. We got on the trail. We found a couple of pin drops of blood. Pretty hard to follow tracks. We did the best that we can. About a mile and a half later, we rolled up over the top into this basin. There's the bull screaming and running hard. He's fine.
After he just got shot.
So we backed out, came back in 2 days later, same area, not the exact same spot, but same area. Now I'm with a different shooter from the camp. Now it's a morning hunt. We set up, I start calling. I mean, this is one of those mornings that you just dream about in the elk woods because everything is responding. You've got multiple bulls. It's just a phenomenal morning. The bull comes in. I hear the bow go off. I don't hear anything from my shooter, so I continue calling. I don't know if he missed. I don't know if he.
Yep.
I don't know anything, so I keep calling. I hear his bow go off again. Then 3 cow calls. That tells me to come up. I come up to him and I'm like, "Did you shoot twice?" And he goes, "Yeah." He goes, that dude came and he stopped right in that opening in the trees. The arrow zipped through him. He turned, he started going up the trail. You kept calling. He stopped up there, turned around and walked back to this opening. So I shot him again. And I'm like,
Holy smokes.
if he is still on his feet, keep shooting. We tracked the bull down. When we started breaking him down, right along the rib cage underneath the hide was the very first arrow from the evening hunt 3 days
I
earlier.
think I lost you for just a quick second.
Yep.
Let's see where we're going here. Sorry, Michael. No, we're still good.
Okay.
All right.
But yeah. So So underneath the hide, right along the ribs, was the arrow from the first night. So this is a bull that got called in 3 times in 3 days and shot 3 times.
They can take a beating.
I'll tell you what, if any bull was going to be call shy, you think it would be that dude.
That guy.
So
It should have been him.
yeah,
Wow. 3 arrows.
I know it's yeah, kind of one of the craziest deals, but it just goes to show that you booger a hunt, you bump a hunt, you have he smells you, sees you, something. It's okay. Back out, come back in 3 days later, 4 days later.
Yep.
The hard part, a lot of people hunt the same spot every single day over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. They don't ever get an area, give it a chance to recover, give it a chance to see. We have multiple hunt spots, day 1, day 2, day 3. We very rarely hunt the same spot 2 days in a row because we want to keep those elk in their same normal patterns as much as possible.
Yep. Did we freeze?
No, it looks like Matt's still moving.
I'm still trying to find some service. We might have to wrap it up though with this thing being goofy. I'm real sorry about that.
No, that's all right. So,
well, Michael, do you want to tell everybody where they can find you?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's Elk Calling Academy. We are on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok. So website is elkcallingacademy.com. That actually gets you all the information there to, the online course, the Wapiti Wednesday live Q&A, the masterclass, everything that we talked about. In fact, I am heading up next weekend or this coming weekend because it is the time for the 2025 Grunt Tube Challenge.
Tube Challenge.
No, it's that time of year. I am actually going back and filming in the same spot where we did the very, very first one. So we're going back in time and going back to that spot. We do.
Hey, Michael, not to ruin it or anything, but is there any wood tubes in that challenge?
No, there is not. So. There's no wood and there's no carbon fiber.
Okay.
Kind of one of the things that I've kind of started focusing on this year with products, and you're going to see some of the new videos that are coming out this year. We're focusing more on budget friendly. So, and in fact, I'm going to show you guys how to take $125 pair of boots and make it last and be more proficient than a $500 pair of crispy ears Amberlins.
I'll watch that one
right away.
And this has come from 4 years of testing these boots. So
can't wait.
Yeah. So yeah, Elk Calling Academy across the board, and I mean, man, appreciate you guys having me on, and
we appreciate you.
Yeah, thanks for coming on.